morning. Several of you were buttonholed by me this morning because I know you're Minnesotans, and I know when I ask for questions, you'll all sit there being hyper polite. So we got some great questions from the audience, things you especially want to learn about this morning, which is awesome. Let me introduce our panelists who are going to do a great job for you this morning. They are all three QR code marketing practitioners. Starting on your right, Scott, just like a doctor. Scott Thompson. On your right, Scott is the managing partner of Launch Media's retail practice. Launch is a cross-channel marketing agency focusing primarily on developing best practices for mobile channel integration. Scott is a career retail marketing executive with a passion for delivering truly differentiated customer experiences. He's worked for companies like Target, Best Buy, and IBM. He's a veteran of both technology and consumer packaged goods marketing, and Scott brings a unique creative perspective. He's also, like all three of these guys, a great speaker. So welcome, Scott. In the middle, Sarah Narrison. Sarah manages social media for all 14 Parasoli restaurant holding companies, operating 14 restaurants and bars in the Twin Cities, and you're going to get a little inside baseball here. They're opening 2 new restaurants. Anybody live south of the river?
Go!
Okay? All right? They're opening a Burger Jones in Burnsville. How cool is that?
Oh, that's South. That's like South Minneapolis.
We didn't say Iowa, Phil. I said something. Sarah works with restaurant managers and Parasoli's marketing team to creatively engage Parasoli customers online. You will see in our rotating deck the Chino Latino billboard that's been up since January in Uptown. That'll appear in a bit in the rotation. With the help of new brand analytics, restaurant online intelligence, Sarah is managing online customer feedback and social media for all Parasoli concepts. And finally, on your left, Kevin Dunn is Vice President of Digital Media for MSP Magazine, Twin Cities Business, Delta Sky, and MSP Custom Content. He manages web development and operations and assists in identifying, developing, and managing strategies to drive the growth of the company's digital media business. Kevin, you will know, started with MSP at the age of 14 because he's been with MSP Communications 21 years. So just don't rat him out on the child labor thing. Okay, so what we're going to do is, the way I'd like to run this is I've got some questions. I'm also going to pepper in some of the questions you all asked me before, which is great. And please, don't be a Minnesotan. Throw your hand up, ask the questions, interrupt us, be kind. If I don't see somebody in the back, say, hey, Lisa, there's a question in the back, because we really do want this to serve your educational needs, not our needs. I'll really answer. Someone's noisy on this end.
Somebody's noisy on this end.
I don't even know if that was Scott. All right, let's jump in. I'm going to ask Kevin to go first here. And again, please interrupt with questions. Kevin, what is MSP Magazine and sister publications? What have you learned on your QR code journey?
I'm micless, but I think you can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we publish Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine, Twin Cities Business, and we have a number of custom publications. We publish magazines for IBM. We publish Twins Magazine. We also publish Delta Sky, and you've seen Eva Longoria up on the screen probably. That was our first foray with Delta. And I'm going to come back to some of the core things that we're doing in kind of our journey. But I'll start with Eva because that's the most recent QR we've done. Delta is published and goes out about 600,000 copies on planes each month, 5.2 million eyeballs, but you're at 30,000 feet. So unless you're getting go-go wireless, you don't have access. So we did this QR code with a really cool video that our art director did on the cover shoot, and it kind of, if you look at it, it's kind of like
here it is.
And there's the QR, and this is really great because this is on page, I think it's 99 of the magazine, so it's not front and center. And I'm prefacing my comments because we have to date about 700 to 800 scans from that QR. So people are scanning that QR when they're in the air. They may be interacting. We've had about 2,000 video plays on YouTube with it. So they're interacting with it either when they're on the ground, when they have access to either 3G or wireless, or if they are interacting on the planes with wireless. We intend to do a QR every month. This was our first shot at it, and we did it pretty quickly, as Lisa knows. And I think we've got an LA cover coming up where we also are doing a montage. Again, we're focusing on video primarily right now, and it's primarily editorial. Okay, so the journey. Back in probably March of last year, Lisa was chatting about what she was doing with Mixmobi, with QR, and we had seen at that point the Robert Downey Jr. Esquire cover with the augmented reality where they used a QR. Then I think we got Women's Day in our office, and it was just salted with QR codes, both from an editorial and also an advertising usage. They had a big spread showing where all the QRs were in the magazine, and so we said, okay, we've been talking about this enough, we've got to jump into it. And we did our first QR in our magazine, again, editorially, I'm going to talk about advertising in a moment, in July of last year. So we've done about, I think we did 2 in July, and we probably are doing anywhere from 5 to 6 every month since then. In terms of interactions, we're getting about, let's say, month of November, month of December, about 2,000 scans, all told. That's an aggregate number. The most scans we've ever gotten were for one QR was Andrew Zimmern, and it was, again, a photo shoot. It was a video. We're doing a lot with contests, a lot with recipes, sweeps. That kind of interaction and engagement is really kind of driving what's happening there. For us, we had no idea what kind of response we were going to get. We're a city magazine. City magazines across the country are probably around 35 to 40 years old. The subscribers are boomer, high affluence, predominantly female. 80% of the subscribers are female. Newsstand buyer, we sell 10 to 15,000 magazines on a newsstand in any given month, and as a matter of fact, we're trying to see if there's a correlation between our newsstand and also the QRs. We haven't really seen anything that's jumped out at us, but we're just kind of looking at that as well. So newsstand is about 10 years younger, same demo, high affluence, and we're selling, again, 10 to 15,000 copies. So in entering into this, we were like, is that audience really going to engage with QR? But we wanted to find out, and we also wanted to offer our audience a deeper, unique engagement with what we're doing as a city magazine from a content standpoint. And we're very happy with the results so far. Our sister book, Twin Cities Business, has yet to do one, although Lisa and I hosted 30 advertisers a few weeks ago, Twin Cities Business advertisers, so B2B is a little different, a little tricky. It's not B2C, where it's kind of easy and you can kind of just jump in. One of the things that came out of that meeting, and there were about 25, 30 people in the room, is the desire to deliver a piece of content, a content asset to someone. So let's say a QR in an ad gets you not a video, although video would work, but let's say a white paper or a case study or something else that's a bit more tangible, coming from, let's say, that financial institution, that educational institution, whoever might be in the pages of Twin Cities Business. And with that, we came up against a blockade, which is going to be resolved in another 30 days, and that's lead generation. Right now, we're using, obviously, the Mixmobi product. We're delighted with it. We keep pushing Lisa to do more with it, and she is. And so there will be a form builder in the next 30 to 45 days, which will enable us to capture more data rather than an email address. And so from a B2B client, They want that name, they want the title, they want to give you that asset, whatever it is, and then they want to come back at you a little bit later. By all accounts, our business advertisers are really gung-ho, really want to use this. We were really surprised by the reaction that we got from them. Some of the things that, other things that we've done, let me just check my notes here so I'm hitting everything. How am I doing on time?
No, you're good.
Okay.
And while Kevin's checking his notes, questions for Kevin? Yep, Kurt.
So how are you looking for your platform to capture that lead, or are you looking for your client to capture the lead?
Good question. Right now, we can send that lead to the client by email, and then we can capture it as well by email. What we want is to be able to capture that lead in toto. So there may be 4 fields there, and deliver that back to the client. We want to keep track of it. Not that we're going to be using that lead list, but we want to be able to deliver back to the client. Here's the success. Here's the KPI for you in terms of what you did with us.
And this is being offered as a premium on top of advertising, or?
Yes, it would be.
Okay.
And it can also be used outside the pages of the magazine. So if an advertiser comes to us, and this is something that I don't want to say we struggled with, but we had a lot of conversations about, because we had a couple of advertisers immediately ask us, okay, we're not going to be in the book until September, August, but we want to use this QR in a conference coming up. Or we want to use this QR in another manner rather than just in the print product itself. And so our point of view is that we're not going to retire on this. It is an incremental increase in cost, but for us it's engaging with the client on something that they want to do, delivering that first to them, and really driving the fact that we're leading in the digital space, which we take a lot of pride in across the company. One of the other, yes?
Actually, I apologize, this is more for Lisa. I'm
Yeah.
trying to channel my non-ness. So,
Yay!
if everybody's okay with this, but the slides are somewhat distracting.
Sure, we can turn them
Thank you.
off. Absolutely, we had them on for attract more than anything else, so no problem.
I just have a question about
Yeah.
privacy.
Yes.
You know, a lot of that's opt-in. How
Yes.
do you then take care of that? I mean, when you scan a QR code, well, when you're generating leads,
Right.
how do you manage that?
Well, we're about to do that. But we are capturing email addresses. So, for example, with Minneapolis-St. Paul, there may be a recipe. We do a lot of recipes. The recipes are sort of mid-range in terms of interaction. And I should say the very first QR code that we did was an iPad giveaway. We figured, okay, we really need people to use that QR code in July. And we got about 832 folks scanning it. Okay. But now what we're doing, let's say for recipes, and obviously food and dining is a huge franchise for the magazine. It's one of the core pillars of the product in terms of business and also in terms of the content that we're providing. We'll say, do you want to subscribe to Foodie? And we'll get the email address. If we're capturing more data than that down the road on Lisa's roadmap, which we really, really want to do, we will have some kind of a privacy policy there. We're not going to resell that. They will know that they're opting in to get more information from that particular business. So, great question. But we're right on the cusp of that.
Let's move on to the next thing. Sounds like my garage door.
I want to say one other thing. We do a restaurant week 3 times a year. This year we used QRs in the skyways on backlit posters that worked quite well for us. We're very pleased with the results.
Great. Thank you. Sarah, who in the audience has seen the Chino Latino billboard in Uptown? Okay. So Sarah, tell us about the genesis of that and how that went for you guys.
Yeah. Can everyone hear me? Good? Okay. So we, back, this is probably last fall, we were thinking, okay, we want to reach out, continue trying things new. For any of you guys who are familiar with the Parasoli brand, we've always been willing to try something. They haven't always worked, and sometimes we've offended people, sometimes we've fallen on our face, but we're always willing to try it at least once. So we had a conversation with Lisa and then Chris Lauer, who's worked on and off with our company to just make sure we stay focused. And we decided that QR codes was probably the best next step for us to continue to reach out to our customers and also sort of engage the younger customer. Chino's been around for many, many years, and it's kind of that place you go for your 18th birthday, your 21st birthday, 40th birthday. But just making sure that we can engage that younger customer. We also chose Chino because it is to be our first restaurant to use QR codes. It's kind of a brand that's been around for a while, again, like I said. We wanted to do a billboard. People expect billboards from Chino. And we kind of just decided it's an easier brand. People are very familiar with it. So we decided to go ahead and jump in full force. We had cocktail flags made with QR codes. We had tattoos that didn't quite work because they didn't really come off. They were more permanent than temporary. They worked, but too good. And the billboard, which we work with an amazing creative agency, Intercom, that has helped us in the past with most of our creative endeavors. It was really interesting. It was a bit of a challenge. Our creative agency had never worked with QR codes before. So in our first meeting, I believe they referenced them as barcodes, and they just weren't quite understanding the translation. No, it's not a website, it's for a mobile device. And so there was a lot of learning going on. And I mean, the restaurant industry, we try to stay innovative, but goodness sakes, we still use fax machines an awful lot. And then we also, for the campaign, we decided to focus on our brand new chef that we just acquired, Tuin, who is just this amazing chef. He comes from a really diverse background. So we featured Tuin's travels in the hot zones. We have this great creative coupled with offers that usually stay live about a week. We have had around 3,000 unique visitors in 2 months. We did a list builder opt-in for a Chinese New Year dinner. We got about 1,000 email addresses opt-in to receive emails from Chino. So it's been really successful for a small little, I say small little because a lot of people don't realize Parasoli, it sounds big, but we function as a very small company.
Hey Sarah, could you talk for a few minutes about using your, and it's not about the software, but about from a marketing point of view, changing the content? Because I think that's something a lot of people haven't quite gotten yet, is that
good dynamic.
Yep.
Yeah, so one thing, and maybe this is because we're all a little ADHD at Parasoli, but we wanted to make sure that this content wasn't stagnant, that people could engage daily, weekly, and see something new, see something fresh. So the first 2 weeks of the campaign, our content, when you scan the QR code, changed daily. The creative changed daily. The offer we keep up for 1 week at a time, but our creative changed daily. Something was new every single time you went to it. And then more recently, it's been about a week. But that's been something really important. We don't want people to get bored with our QR code campaign. And we know how short attention spans people can have. So giving them a reason to go back and engage with our brand.
Excellent. Questions for Sarah? This campaign got a lot of nice press. They had a nice write-up in Nation's Restaurant News. They had a write-up in City Pages, a nice write-up in Star Tribune.
I think what was unique, too, is the press that we got covered by lifestyle, food, tech, business. So that's kind of fun because you're really kind of covering the bases and people are realizing the impact of the QR code. It's not just a food story that a restaurant's doing something, but it's covering a lot of different areas.
And as Lisa always says, you were first in.
Yeah.
You did it first in this market, and you leveraged and maximized the press that you got as well. I mean, it was just brilliant.
We like being first.
Yeah.
Their channel did tell Parasoli that they had the first QR code billboard outside the east or west coast. Rose?
Yeah, Sarah, so the dynamic QR code at campaigns and stuff, were you able to measure were the repeat visitors? Are you able to, the same person re-engaging and then converting? And how did you measure that?
Yeah, what is really great about the platform, the Mixmobi platform, is we get amazing analytics. We love analytics at Parasoli because if we don't measure, how do we know? We need that gauge. So we're able to see who's going back. We can dial down and see people's IP addresses. If they're coming to us from a computer, we can see their cell phone provider. So we can really see who's a new user, who's coming back to us. If we're doing an enter to win, we can track. We've been tracking those email addresses, which is fun because then we know who our champions are too. So yeah.
Great question. Other questions for Sarah? Okay, let's move on to Scott. And by the way, we can hop around if you think of a question for Kevin a little bit later. Oh, go ahead.
I've got a question.
Sure, Benjamin.
So you're the first to do this. What was that discussion like? What really led to this? Because obviously you're unique in that regard.
Yeah.
Why?
So this was a discussion. It was me, myself, and then our marketing director, Jody Schoenauer, and Chris Lauer. We were all sitting in a room. I've been wanting to do mobile for a long time. In fact, over a year ago, we met with someone talking about mobile payment. And I'm like, oh, I know our customers just aren't quite there yet, but when they are, we'll be doing it. So he said, well, what about QR codes? Because mobile apps are expensive, and our budget is like this big, if that. We're like, is it free? But so he explained to us that, brought up QR codes. Jody has seen QR codes. Her boyfriend works for the Food Network, so he's been all over the world, seeing them, engaged with them. We're like, okay, this might be it. There was no pushback. Pretty much at Parasoli, we were like, okay, let's try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it's just kind of like, let's do it. Let's see if it works.
I will say these guys were remarkably agile, and you know what I mean, in the time frame.
Already. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we're a small group too, so it's not like we have a group of 20 people in our marketing department. It's like 3 of us. So we can move pretty fast if we decide we want to do something.
Thank you. Another question?
Sarah, what are your plans with the email addresses you collected and messages and things like that? Do you have plans or have you anything with that?
Yeah. So with email addresses, we have for any of you guys who are in our email database, we have about 50,000 email addresses. We send out messages about different dinners and like wine dinners and whatever, specials and things that are changing. So they were added in. Our system has an opt-out. So if anyone wants to opt out, we're totally fine with it. None of them have opted out so far, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's a great tool. And of course, when this list builder, or not list builder, but a form, I mean, that's I'm automatically thinking, oh my gosh, this is great for our sales and private dining managers. So, which we've already started. So. No, we do emails. So we're a little bit, it's kind of funny. We have some new technology and then we're still kind of old-fashioned too, so do a lot of emails.
I think you're pretty typical, actually. Yeah. A lot of companies
pretty
are like
diverse.
that. Yeah. So Scott is one of the most innovative people in mobile that I know. And what I'd like to ask Scott, it's true. Scott and his firm Launch Media are just doing some phenomenal, exciting things. So I wanted to ask Scott about what he and his company are seeing and doing that's, that's kind of that next, even leading edge beyond what we've been talking about so far. and with some of his bigger clients, including Best Buy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, in general, Launch Media, we take a step back. I mean, we have our roots in traditional marketing, right? I was a retail merchant buyer for here, not in these halls, but in the old building way back in the day. At Best Buy stores, at Target stores, I spent time on the other side of the table in the sales organizations for retail product, consumer products. And sort of out of that, you know, I've always sort of spent my time in technology, and sort of out of that, you know, there are gaping holes, so to speak. We call them sort of cross-channel disconnects, right? Between the experiences that you see sort of online and the experiences that you see in traditional media. And, you know, so, you know, when we were sort of thinking about, you know, what is Launch Media going to be and what are we going to do and so forth, sort of bridging that gap. So bringing together, right, the goodness of the traditional marketing venues along with what's available in the online world is actually how we sort of created things. And so really the first iteration of really a truly cross-channel program. And, you know, I really do have to say, and it's not just because I'm in this building, we had the privilege of really working with the folks at Best Buy, a number of which are in this room today, you know, to really create what is truly, I will tell you, best in breed as far as technical experience is concerned. Quick response code program. Every single fact that you saw Best Buy price tag sort of rolling on the screen. Every single price tag in Best Buy stores today has a unique QR code on that. And not only is that a unique QR code, but also there are unique experiences that are user-selectable experiences that are different depending on how you access that QR code. So whether or not you scan it with a generic reader, or whether you scan it with a reader that's embedded into the Best Buy application, or other experiences, you're able to sort of, both from a technical standpoint, deliver an in-app experience, which unbelievably, I mean, what they've done is terrific. Or whether you scan it with a generic reader, you get different experiences as a consumer. But I think the most important thing that we do, or we try to think about, is we mentioned analytics a little bit before, is really begin with the end in mind. If we're a marketer and you've got an experience, right, and you have a consumer that's looking at your experience, and you actually, a consumer really takes the time and energy to sort of interact with that experience, you got to make sure that your content is not only fresh and new, but is contextually relevant, right? Meaning, I know you're looking at the billboard, I know you're Susie, or I know this is sort of the time, energy, context with which you're experiencing things. And then building sort of the technical platform on the backside, to be able to deliver that experience in a way that's meaningful, okay? And so that's bottom line what we do, and we do it for the most part in the retail channel, the consumer goods channel. We're working today not only with folks at Best Buy, but also the grocery channel. One of our clients is the American Heart Association. We're creating sort of a multi-platform experience in the web, mobile web, Android and iPhone platforms to be able to deliver you know, recipes, meal planning, make yourself a heart-healthy lifestyle, have nutrition information, and have all the tools in place that, again, are contextually relevant, right? Understanding that if I'm holding my iPhone, right, it's a completely different experience than if I'm looking at the web. But the two need to tie together. And so you know, there are a number of reasons that programs do or don't tie together, right? You know, I always like to say that the guy who invented the website for retailer A never intended it to be looked at in store, right? Total silos. You saw, you know, in Jack's presentation a little bit earlier, you saw the silo graph, right? I have a very similar slide in my deck, and that is that we as sort of marketers need to be thinking about what does our total cross-channel experience look like. You know, if I'm going to scan a QR code from a piece of traditional media, the look, feel, and context of the whatever I'm looking at on the way back better really respect both the creative as well as the message of that traditional piece of media.
Brand experience.
The brand experience, understand the context. And if you're doing that, right, if you're going to all that trouble to ask people to interact and they actually do it, you better be understanding where they're coming from, right? How they're coming to you, right? And what else can you do with that, right? Because again, you talked a little bit about business marketing, business to consumer marketing. But what we do, we like to say we enable consumer to business marketing. That is, I'm a consumer, right? And I need something, right? I'm looking for something, right? So I'm going to scan this code. I'm going to take this very personal device, and I'm going to ask you to sort of come into this sort of very personal space that I have. And if that's the case, it's a completely different message than it is if you're just sort of carpet bombing an outbound message. And I think, if Lisa asked me to talk about sort of world-class programs, and I can't get away from saying, what a good world-class program isn't. And that is, it's not a reskin of an outbound message, right? If you think about the QR code as a portal, I like to say, what's behind door number 3? For me, it's not about something that's automatically going to push a message out to a consumer, right? It's a way for a consumer to avail themselves to a marketer and say, hey, hi, it's Johnny, I'm here, what do you got for me, okay? And if you think of things that way and build back a program, you're going to build it much differently than you would if you just said, God, the corner office says, what are these squiggly things? I need a squiggly thing. Give me a squiggly thing right now. And it's sort of like the app craze was, 2 or 3 years ago, right? When iPhone apps just started coming up, the corner pocket office and the marketing area said, what's our app? We got a strategy, we got a mobile strategy, let's get an app. So you get an app, you get it in the marketplace, and somebody puts a check mark in and says, we're done. But you're not, right? And
so Scott's talking about graduate school level, in my opinion, which is awesome. And the one kindergarten mistake that's classic in that knee-jerk marketing SVP wants me to do something with QR codes is to link a free QR code to your existing website. Okay, if you do that, I will hunt you down. And I will take you to lunch, and then I'll take you to school, which is don't do that because the consumers don't come back. Hang on one second.
Oh, I don't need the mic. I want to speak to that because as you were describing that, the other aspect of the Mixmobi platform that we love, we love, is that you're getting a landing page that renders to that mobile device. And we haven't really touched on that so much, but we're a very competitive company. I'm a very competitive guy. I picked up a competing magazine a few months ago. And in the magazine, there was an article about David Byrne from Talking Heads. He had a new movie out. And so there's a little paragraph about it, and right next to it is this big QR code, which made my heart sink, because we've been doing the QRs. So I scan it, expecting what? What would you expect from a paragraph about a musician doing a new movie? Trailer. A trailer. Somebody said trailer. Scanned it, and what I got on my iPhone was the website with a big lump in white box because they were using Flash. Okay? That is using the technology poorly.
So, Steve?
Well, and you guys probably obviously know these examples, but informational is neat, and having it be a part of the campaign is neat. Having it be new technology is neat. But are you seeing loyalty programs and incentive programs coming together with QR codes so that there's an incentive, and maybe even gameplay, so there's an incentive for people to keep coming back and maybe treasure hunts and all kinds of
Launch Media and also our company, I know, are seeing separately a lot of requests for pretty deep integrations.
You're actually going to see if you go to either the Android store, App Store or the iPhone App Store today, there's an app called Perks Card Mobile, which is an app put out by a company here in town. We happen to build the iPhone, Android, mobile web experiences for that. But you're going to see it sort of in the Central Corridor area here in Minneapolis, where it's basically a loyalty program for small businesses, right? So that they can, the dry cleaners or the Subway restaurant or the Dairy Queen or whatever can actually have a loyalty program where you can walk in and through the use of one of those apps or through a generic scanning app, you can scan a QR code at the point of sale and either get an offer or have a virtual punch card or however sort of the marketers in that particular venue want to sort of deliver that experience to you. You'll be able to sort of engage in that manner, right? And again, it's a cross-channel experience. It's all about having things like, you talk about loyalty programs. Look at most major loyalty programs today, right? Whether they be for a bank, a credit card, a retailer, etc. there's tremendous amounts of cross-channel disconnect there. I mean, most loyalty programs today have unique logons from your experience that you log on for the actual enterprise, right? So that's a big problem. And until folks sort of realize that you just can't have disconnects like that anymore, that now my banking app will serve as, for instance, a way to engage with marketing materials, or down the road a way to pay for things. And that same, down the road we talked a little bit about near field, we talked a little bit about about EPC. So if you think about near field communications, about things called EPC, electronic product code, or things like RFID, all of those are really the same thing, right? But that same application that will serve as your contactless payment will actually be able to not necessarily replace, but augment or act just like a UPC or a scan of a QR code does on a product with an electronic product code on it, right? Say in softline hang tags.
And I want to get in as many questions as possible. Please go ahead.
Question. So the hang tags at Best Buy have a fair amount of content on them. I scan the QR code. What more am I going to get?
Today the experience in general, and some of the folks at Best Buy, I don't know, Cameron maybe even want to take that right there. Looking back right here, right here. But no, in general, the number one thing that we see across the board, and the one thing that I as a merchant really, we 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, when we sort of envisioned the fact tag, it really was born from, sort of an experience over the past 20 years. Creating those fact tags, saying what 3 bullet points can I put on this silly piece of paper with a price tag on it that'll actually get somebody to spend $900 on this, right? The information that you're going to get today in the Best Buy program in general is going to vary depending on the experiences, but in general, the general experience is deeper, richer product content. So it might be a better description of what that product is. Most important thing is going to be online reviews. So what are those things that you look at when you go to the website? You're looking for reviews, you're looking for other products, what cable do I need, etc. And I think the most innovative thing that the Best Buy folks have done is direct side-by-side comparisons. So when you're in the Best Buy app and you walk into the store and you want to compare the 2 TVs that are right next door to each other, you can scan a QR code, walk to the next one, scan another QR code, and get direct side-by-side spec comparisons. At the same time, you can say, you know what, I want this one. I can pick it up. I'm going to walk out with it today. I'm going to be able to touch, feel, measure, do all of those things that are innate to an in-store experience, and really have that shopping experience that we come to expect from the online world.
Great, thanks. Kurt?
I want to leap off what you said to one of the things that you put a QR code on a swizzle stick. And that sounds ridiculous until you realize that someone sitting at the bar gets right part of the experience. How do you capitalize on someone going, well, what do you do once they click on that QR code?
Yeah. Well, I'll share with you our most recent in-store thing that we did. So we had a discussion with our GM. He said, okay, this is great, this whole thing is great, but I want people to come into my restaurant and I want to be able to prove it. So currently what we have up is, okay, a little teaser. So you have to go to Chino, find the hidden 4x4 foot QR code, and then you scan that. It's promoting our new happy hour because you're going to get your first new cocktail free. So then you take that over your bartender. Your bartender is going to know. Then you can sit at the bar with your cocktail with the QR code, plug in it, and scan it and get other content. So, yeah.
Very fun. And there was a question. Yep.
So you talked about using QR codes for loyalty programs. How would you avoid gaming the system? Because if they're just static URLs, couldn't I just hit it over and over?
There are various ways. Let me see here. It depends on how you do it, right? Are they a static URL? Yes, a QR code is a static URL, right? If that's a static URL to an end content page, you're going to game the system all day long, right? What we do is we do things a little different. We decouple the actual URL of the QR code itself. We call that the code string, right? Decouple that from the actual end content because of a number of things. Most definitely because you want to augment that experience based on a number of factors, right? About proximity, about time, about who that customer is, about what device they're using and how they're getting at it, right? So you want to make sure that that experience comes back to the device is the other way. When you do that and you have specific logins and so forth, you're not gaming the system. Now, the reality is that when you boil down, there's nothing magic in the QR code, right? There really isn't. At the end of the day, it just keeps you from entering a whole string of characters, right? Just an easier data entry point, for the mobile device. Okay, so there's no real intrinsic magic there.
Except consumers find it really sexy.
Yeah. So, and the other thing too is consumers find it sexy. It's easy to do, and the QR code itself. Because of the way it looks, if you put a QR code up, you'll see 3 registration marks on there. Those are 3 registration marks that when that phone technically is sort of off axis looking at it, it says, okay, I know where the registration marks are, now I can make sense of what's in the middle, right? That's how technically the phone works. And because of that, it's got a unique look and feel that in general consumers will end up finding as, oh, that's that code that I go to get more stuff, whatever that stuff is, okay? And it's up to us as marketers to deliver stuff that they want, right, that they're going to need. Otherwise, they're not going to come back to it at all.
Yep, and I want to get as many questions as we can in here.
I guess it's more of a sales question. So, I have some clients that understand QR codes, and then say I have one in particular, it's a bridal boutique shop. Okay?
Sure. So,
basically, they also sell prom dresses, homecoming stuff, so that younger people come in there. They understand how to use it. Their parents pay the bill. Okay? The lady that owns it, her apprehension of doing a QR campaign is that trying to decide, like, okay, we have to put some information on their site or their newsletter that explains how it works before we launch it.
Yeah. I'll take that one, and I'll give Kevin a great deal of credit. Right. If you look back in any of those MSP magazines going all the way back to July, and some of those are deactivated, obviously, but you'll see that they did a very elegant job of need a reader, go to getneoreader.com. So that is still the advice that you need. Those of you who arrived before we took the slideshow down saw that in North America, you can tell your bridal shop prospect or client, QR code scanning as a consumer behavior was up 1,200% in 6 months. In 6 months, that's crazy. And women dominated that. So, I would think that maybe some stats like that would help her feel more comfortable, especially affluent. I'm sorry?
Just put it out there, or do you think is it a risk that might hurt the effort by trying to educate people first, or just put it out there?
That's a great question. Yeah, and there is a debate there, right? And it's great to sort of wax philosophic all day long. We believe right now, I think you need to put a point of view out there. Our particular point of view at Launch Media is that you need some form of education as to how to get a reader, right? And moreover, most of the programs that we have readers embedded into specific apps for that particular program, right? So what we do is we will utilize a simple SMS message. So text the word app to 82350, text per PKS app or something, right? And you'll get a return URL. You click on that, we identify the device and ship you off to the right app store, or do a push of an actual reader.
Kevin, you wanted to get a comment on that?
I'm going to concur. Our belief is right at, let's say, point of use, you want to let them know how to use it. There was a lot of trepidation in our office when we first launched back in July. I think the editor wrote an editor's note about it. QR was at the bottom of our editor's note with a large description. We've slimmed down a little bit, but it is hanging there most times because someone is going to come across it that's never come across it before and needs to know that they have to go get the Neo reader, which is the one reader that we suggest. I think there's a ubiquity factor here. And we're going to reach a plateau where, and I don't know how far away we are yet, but where people know them, understand them like they do in either Europe or Asia. And I think we're getting close to that. But in the meantime, an informed public, a knowledgeable public, is an engaged public in terms of the QR.
I think there's just one more thing I want to talk about readers, just for a second, because as marketers, the one thing about QR code programs and QR code readers that you really, really need to dive into and understand is what the data stream is and who owns it. Okay, readers work in 2 different ways. One is a reader will read a barcode and just expose whatever that URL is to a website, as a for instance. So it's just going to open up a browser session and send you to that particular website. The other way that a reader will work is actually to go through a third-party platform, okay? And so a reader on your device will scan a code, go to a third-party platform all the time, every single time, and then that platform will tell the reader what to do. In that particular case, all of that sort of data is being sort of aggregated by a particular provider. I'm not going to sort of say which one's good or bad or whatever. Really you would really have to talk with someone in the business to sort of know exactly how those work. But understanding who owns your data stream is a big deal right now. And I think it's important, and it's intrinsic upon all of us to actually do due diligence there.
I agree, and that is something you absolutely need to pay a lot of attention to, whether you're doing something on behalf of someone else or for yourself. We have time for one more question. I saw a couple hands. Yeah.
How do you pick a platform? What kind of features?
I would say research. Do some research. There's a lot out there. As I said, Scott describes kind of the graduate level programs, which are awesome. And as with all awesome things, like a nice car, comes with a price tag. So you can go all the way from that very wonderful, elaborate stuff, all the way down to free, which in my opinion is pretty crappy. We had an agency call us in a panic 2 weeks ago. Their client had decided to cheap out and go free. They did testing of the QR codes. This was about to go into Sports Illustrated and other magazines. Imagine how expensive that spend is. Their scans, because they were doing it themselves, right? They were up to 40% off using the free cheapie method. So, you know what I mean? If somebody came to me as a nonprofit and said, we have no budget, I'd say, go for the free. I mean, it's better than nothing. And if you have a big budget, obviously you want to look at some of the very elaborate, and there are solutions all in between. You need to decide what your budget is, as Sarah said, and then, what you can afford. Thank you. You've been an awesome non-Minnesotan audience. And I saw a tweet, I was checking the Twitter stream, and I saw that there were some geeks who were confessing they've never scanned a code before. I'm going to move to the back of the room to give Chris a chance to set up, but I'm going to be in the back of the room with this. If you scan this and opt in, we will send you a promotional, completely objective white paper on QR codes. And so if you have always been a little nervous about trying it for the first time, or if this is your 100th QR code scan, join me at the back. Thank you very much to our panel, Kevin, Sarah, Scott. Fabulous job. Thank you.